Well, welcome in, everybody. This is the Maine Hockey Report. I am your host, Benjamin Kennedy, joined today by play-by-play man, media director for the Maine Mariners, Mr. Michael Keeley. Mike, welcome in. Welcome back.
Always love being on the show, Ben. Thanks for your continued support, and happy to and excited to talk Mariners hockey.
Yeah, and happy belated Thanksgiving. I know I saw you before the trip to Norfolk, but how was Virginia for Thanksgiving for the second year in a row?
There are so many worse places to be. I've always said that Norfolk is my favorite road city, and the 14-hour bus ride down is really the only bad thing about it. It really is a hidden gem. If you haven't visited, I highly recommend it. It's a very walkable, clean city that is similar to Portland in that it has a really nice waterfront. It has a lot of great restaurants, a great history, right? Big military base down there, and so just a place I always like to go. And when you go down this time of year, the weather's a little bit warmer, and I took a nice little walk around on Thanksgiving Day, and yeah, I mean we had a good meal as a team, and it always helps pick up 4 points as well. So it was a good trip.
Yeah, that doesn't hurt. That's something that people forget about you guys that travel with the teams. Like you're away from family, you don't get the same. Now, maybe some people would love that to be away from the family for the holiday, but you miss out on a lot of that family friend stuff because you're working. How is that? Is there a kind of a family atmosphere amongst the team when you're on the road like that?
Yeah, I mean, it helps that these guys, there was a core of them that came back that got really tight last year, and you know how it is with hockey. Players come in and they always have connections. And they know guys from college or juniors or through another player, some connection they might have. So it doesn't take long to gel. And again, you're winning, and it helps. So I mean, these guys spend more time around each other than their own families. To your point, so I think it does feel like you're with family when you're there. But we all have our own family traditions around Thanksgiving, especially obviously the Americans. There's a good amount of Canadians on our team, but it is tough to be away. And for me, thinking back over the years since I moved out to Maine, really just 2 years I've been able to get back to New York. One was the COVID year, and the other was the very first year when we managed to have 3 or 4 days between games around the holiday. And then most years I'm able to go spend it with my aunt and uncle and cousins in Worcester. But of course, the last 2 years we've been away in Norfolk. So obviously, it is your kind of your second family because you spend so much time around the team. But it definitely is sad in a way to be away from family. But it is something we know what we're signing up for when we get into it.
That's the world of pro sports, isn't it? That's for sure. Well, as you said, 4 point weekend makes the holiday that much better. Mike, let's dive right in. I'm just going to read through part of this box score from the 28th. Of course, Maine a comeback win in this one, winning 3-2. Shots on goal were 25 apiece. 4-12 in the first period for Norfolk, 9-3 for Maine in the second, 12-10 in the third. Maine 1 for 4 on the power play. Norfolk 0 for 3. Of course, Cavallin in net for this one, 23 saves on 25 shots. Mike, 4 shots in the first period. Slow start, a little too much turkey for the boys. What happened there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a slow start, and I think you and I talked about it on Sunday when the Admirals came to Portland the previous Sunday. It's a new team with a different style, and you got to kind of learn how to play against it. And I think they were still trying to figure that out even after a full game. But to their credit, they hung in there, and they were only down a goal, and then they did get better as that game went on. So, yeah, I mean, it kind of that epidemic that this team has had all year, starting slow. But I saw an interesting stat that even though they have something like 10 or 11 first period goals all season, they've only allowed 4 or 5. They've been a tremendous defensive first period team, and it tracks because I don't know how many times we've been on the broadcast saying, oh, there's another 0-0 first period. It seems like every night. And so I think if you could choose a pattern, you'd rather start slow and finish strong. But luckily, that was not the case on Saturday. They were strong from the start Saturday, so that was nice to see that improvement. And that being said, it was good to see them get a come from behind win. I mean, they'd kind of fallen into the same pattern of they get ahead, they find a way to win, they fall behind, it's tough on them. So they kind of changed that narrative a bit on Friday, where they were down going to the third, found a way to win. So that's good for the confidence and for practice being in those situations moving forward.
For sure. And as you noted, down 1-0 after one. It's Vidmar that gets on the board at the 155 mark from Thompson and Viegas. The other goal scorers here in the third period, because again, the team got down twice in this game, down 1-0, then down 2-1. McCollum getting hot now, seventh now with Maskon Hemstrom assisting. Hudson staying hot as well, sixth of the year for him. Kalmakov and Andreev, that the game winner at the 3:53 mark. Cavallin continues to stay hot, Mike. What did you see from him that night?
Well, the best thing about Cavallin that we've learned over this time that he's been a Mariner is that he is so good at making timely saves and kind of dictating momentum for the team. So for him, it's not always the volume of saves, although that Sunday game that you and I did at home, he did make 40 of them. Yeah. But once the team came back and took the lead, you just felt so good about it. He's going to find a way to lock it down. And times throughout that first period where they didn't play well, he kept it at 1-0. And you just feel so confident. That confidence emanates to the rest of the team. So, just goes about his business. You look up, he's got eight wins, tied for the league lead. He's been, I think he's got as many minutes as any goalie in the league as well. So, he was a big part of that win Friday for sure.
Excellent. Moving on to, I think this was the Saturday game, the 29th. Maine winning this one 4-1, maybe not quite as tense as that first game, but shots on goal on this one, guys, 35-26 for Maine. That's 10-19-6 for Maine, 7-4-15 for Norfolk. Maine 0-for-5 on the power play. Norfolk 0-for-4. It was all about that second period. Of course, Lampa getting it started at the 5:23 mark. 3 goals in that second period, really icing this one away. Mike, what did you see from the booth?
Well, once again, another 0-0 first period, right? But then they turned it up. But they did play a better first on Saturday than Friday. But it's interesting that you mentioned the 0-for-5 on the power play, because I made a remark several times on the broadcast that their power play was moving it around so well that I thought it helped them generate momentum at 5-on-5. And so that's where that can be deceiving. And hat tip to Norfolk's goaltender, Alex Worthington, who played both games. He was tremendous. And particularly on Saturday, I thought the Mariners could have had 6 or 7 goals if not for him. That second period was just an onslaught, as you mentioned there, with the shot discrepancy. And he, like Cavallin on Friday, he really kept them in it on Saturday for Norfolk. But they were just really – the Mariners played great Saturday. They were connected. All the lines were gelling, and it was ironic because they had only 11 forwards going. Ben Raymond got injured on Friday, and so they were playing 11 and 7. But that top 6 in particular were really rolling. Jacob Hudson now 3-game goal streak. You mentioned McCollum getting hot. Lampa hadn't scored in a while. It's nice to see him get on the board. And they were just very complete as a team. And I think defensively, just as impressive on Saturday. Again, Norfolk, a team that likes to run and gun. They kind of throw pucks into areas and cheat. And something you got to, again, kind of learn to play, how to play against. And I think you finally saw on Saturday, 3 games in, that they figured it out and they really clamped down and they got the results.
Yeah, I talk about 0-for-5 on the power play, but 7-for-7 on the PK over the weekend. This has been an impressive PK team. We'll talk about numbers a little later, but that PK continues to stay really, really effective. Is it just a matter of the cohesiveness of the unit? Is it active sticks? I mean, when I've gone to games, been there with you live, I see a lot of active sticks, a lot of aggressiveness on the PK. Is that what you saw over the weekend?
Yeah, and again, especially against that Norfolk team, they created a lot of dangerous shorthanded chances. Norfolk does that thing where they make the little delay drop at the blue line as they're entering the zone, and you saw guys like Vidmar and Hudson start to sniff that out and end up with shorthanded breakaways. But yeah, definitely aggressive, great at getting in the lanes, and then both goaltenders. I mean, I'm sure you're going to bring up Arvanitis here. It was great to see him get in there and play well after 2 weeks between starts. And your goaltender always has to be your best penalty killer, as they say. So, yeah, I mean, I know they take pride in that. I know something that Zach Tolkinen, who runs the penalty kill, takes pride in, and it was nice to see them go perfect on the weekend.
Goal scorers, again, Lampa in that second period, assisted by Hemstrom and Vidmar. Viegas getting his first of the season to Powell and Thompson on that one. Hudson unassisted to get that third one in the second period, up to 7 now for Hudson. And then Bellamy with the empty netter, assisted by Hudson there to ice the game. And yes, let's talk a little Brad Arvanitis, of course, 25 saves on 26 shots on this one, and a bit of a notable win, I would say, a 33rd win as a Maine Mariner. I believe that's a team record. Am I not? Am I mistaken?
You are correct, and it might not seem like a huge number. I was joking about it with Rick Kowalsky. It's, you know, our franchise is still relatively young. That 33 is the record, but you know, you think about him and how he's really had to battle for his playing time in his Mariner career, always getting caught behind affiliate goalies, and the fact that he's racked up 33 wins in that span is impressive. And he was really sharp. I think he's gotten better as each game he's played, which again has kind of been few and far between at times. But it's unfortunate he didn't get that shutout. You know, they scored with about 3 minutes left to break it up, which has happened to him so many times over his career. He's just stuck on that one shutout he had a couple of years ago. But he made a particularly amazing save at the second period on Young, who was ironically the same player that Cavallin robbed on Sunday when he dove at the goal line. But Brady Florent had it behind the net, and Young was out in front, and Florent kind of made a wraparound pass, and somehow Arvanitis tracked it. It was 2-0 at the time, so again, timely save. But so happy for the guy. He's got the best attitude you could possibly have for a backup goaltender, and there's a reason he's a fan favorite.
Yeah, I think attitude is everything. You talk about last year, had 2 affiliate goaltenders in front of him, and what did he go like a month without seeing the ice at one point last winter? So, one of the best teammates, as you said, one of the most popular players, you know, on the team. Just looking over his numbers here, this is of course his 3rd season in Maine. Going back to 23-24, he was 21 goaltender, 2.71 goals against, a .920 save percentage. You would think that would earn you a starting role going into the next year. Of course, we know last year the struggles with kind of goaltending overall. He still had a 2.97 and 899 playing in limited capacity. And this year so far, a 2.31 goals against and a .912 winning percentage in, what's it been now, 5 games. So, yeah, I mean, perfect. That's a backup, and probably feels like he feels like he deserves more ice time. But again, as you said, his attitude has been phenomenal so far.
Yeah, I mean, you think back to that 23-24 season, that was, you know, he was the reason they made the playoffs and then almost upset Adirondack in that series. He was tremendous in that series. And you're right, you figure coming into 24-25, he's got the number 1 job locked up, but then you end up with Bichel and Meyer here. And I think, you know, the thought was maybe you only get one of those 2 guys, and then Arvanitis gets a, you know, decent amount of playing time as backup, and it just didn't shake out that way. And then he when he finally got a chance, he really struggled at the beginning of last year, and that is what made it so hard for him to get playing time again. And then finally at the end of the year there, it was like, man, this guy is just playing, he's outplaying the other 2. He's our guy. And at that point, the Mariners were so desperate trying to make a miracle playoff run and obviously couldn't do it. But it's nice for him this year that he's only got the 1 ahead of him, which means that he's going to see a lot more time. And if you look at the Mariners schedule, particularly January forward, there's a lot of 3-3, 4-5. So he's going to see ice no matter how well Cavallin plays.
I know a couple years ago he got a sniff with, was it Hartford in the AHL?
I don't think he got into a game. But he was there for the experience.
Has he had, and I'm trying to remember now off the top of my head, has he been in other AHL camps since he's been?
Yep.
Yeah. Just hasn't quite been able to crack that nut. And of course, we know the Boston system right now with what's happening in Boston with, you know, Corpo and Swayman, and especially in Providence with DiPietro, and I'm forgetting the other guy there, but they're both
Simon Zajac.
Thank you for pronouncing that, because I would be I'd be making a fool of myself, as I do often on here. Both playing phenomenal. Of course, Providence playing lights out. I mean, you know, of course, we're talking Arvanitis. Let's talk Luke Cavallin now. I mean, we are so lucky to have this guy here in Maine. I don't want to toot his horn that much. I don't want to blow up his ego too much, but we know the history of him and Troyes, what he did a year ago. We know he signed to the Boston Bruins contract. This guy, I mean, for as good as his numbers were a year ago, they're better. They're better this year through, what is, I believe, 12 games so far for him. A .933 save percentage, a 189 goals against. Last year at Troyes, he was over 32 games, 2.13 and 929. So we know with more games that could, you know, the numbers could change a little bit, but phenomenal start to this season for Luke.
Yeah, I mean, it really is remarkable, and you see why he earned an NHL deal I can't wait. We haven't played Trois-Rivières yet, and I can't wait to see him go up against his former team, because that always gives guys a little extra juice. But yeah, I mean, what I always say about Cavallin is just his calm and collected demeanor in there. He's the same way off the ice as well. He's never, you wouldn't know when you talk to him, you wouldn't know that he's, a top goaltender in this league. He doesn't have that ego, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. He just is the same all the time, consistent, steady, and then that translates into his play. And Rick has pointed out multiple times, he didn't realize how good of a puck handling goaltender that he was, and I concur with that. I mean, we saw him plenty of times on the other side, whether he was a member of Newfoundland or then Trois-Rivières, but you don't appreciate it, I guess, until you see him regularly, and he does act often as a third defenseman out there with how well he plays the puck. The Mariners are lucky, and the whole organization, to your original point, is lucky to have a tremendous amount of depth. And I mean, you even think about Michael DiPietro and how he was AHL goalie of the year last year, and he still has to settle for an AHL spot because of the Boston situation. And Zajac is, I mean, both of those guys, last I looked, were top 5 in the AHL in goals against average. So it's just a ridiculous wealth of talent in the nets. And Cavallin is a guy that perhaps he's frustrated that he has to be stuck down here, but you wouldn't know it if he is, because that's just the kind of guy he is.
I think I heard Coach Kowalsky refer to Cavallin as Martin Brodeur-like in terms of his puck handling. I'm not sure if that was on a coach's show or on one of the pre-games, but when he said that, I was like, holy, really? Brodeur-like? That's high praise.
It is, yeah. Praise. I mean, I know he did go for a goal. I think it was him. I might have been Arvinitis. One of them went for a goal with the net empty and the Mariners up 2. It was a while ago. And I would not be surprised if he comes close at some point this season.
Yeah, you imagine that, of course, any injury to Providence or Boston, Cavalin's going to get that opportunity to go up. And just looking around the NHL right now, Mike, I mean, some of the goaltending situations that are just god awful. These guys, there's just not enough goaltenders right now to go around, I guess is my point. And I know the Bruins have always had this approach of have a wealth of goaltenders, because whether they're trade assets or injuries, you lose someone in free agency, it's a great position for the organization to be in.
Yeah. I mean, you could argue it's the most important position in the game. I think different people have different philosophies on that, but I think, it's hard to argue with the success that the Bruins have had goaltenders over the years. That Tuukka Rask was so solid for so long there, and Tim Thomas before him, and you've seen it with Providence. I think Providence has always been built on their defense and goaltending, and the success that they've had speaks for itself. So the Mariners are lucky to be part of that pipeline, and Cavallin's just added to it this year.
And final thought on that, of course, Brandon Bussi right now in Carolina, looking pretty darn good. So that's not a bad thing for this Bruins organization in terms of development. Well, moving off that, of course, the Maine Mariners did make a trade recently, bringing in defenseman Nick Anderson from Orlando. I don't know if he's here yet, if you've had a chance to talk to him, or what you know about this defenseman we're bringing in.
Well, the first thing I know is he's a right shot defenseman, which the Mariners have been desperately trying to find really since training camp. If you look at the roster, it's all left shot. So I think Phil Ballou is the only right shot D on the roster prior to this trade. And so the Mariners needed that. He's a guy that another Colgate guy. So that makes 3 of them with DePaulo and Raymond. I also played at UMass Lowell, which, as we know from Terrence Wallen, they churn out some pretty darn good ECHL players. They have a good track record there. So another guy that, according to Rick, can move the puck well. And again, just somebody put on that right side, so you don't have too many left shot Ds playing the right side. It puts the Mariners back at 8 defensemen, so they like to stay pretty deep there. Zach Massicott went down. Not sure the status of him. It seems like every time someone comes in, someone goes down, and it's just the way it's gone this year. I was talking about it on the broadcast toward the end of the game Saturday, right when Gallatin got brought in. That's when Johansson got called up. And so, at any given point, you think, oh, the Mariners have too many D. It is getting crowded, and then all of a sudden everyone's playing. So just kind of how the cookie crumbles. But I think Rick's shown a great job of or a great ability to bring in guys that really succeed right away. I mean, think about Nielsen, fellow defenseman there that he was able to find. And so I'm excited to see what Anderson can bring here and how he fits into this decor.
Yeah, I mean, 2 of those years at Colgate, 29 points in 40 games back in 22-23. Let's see, 21 points in 36 games the following year. So, I mean, a defensive player, but has a little bit of offense to his game. A lot of assists there for him from the blue line. So really good to see. Going back to defense, of course, looking at, from the top down, Boston from a forward perspective is starting to get healthy. I believe Arvidsson is skating. I think he may play tomorrow. Pasta's still out, but defensively, we know Boston is still beat up. Is it Yoki Haru is now on the IR? Harris is still on the IR. We know McAvoy's on the IR. So we know guys like Johansson that got called up from Maine to Providence. Is it Gallagher that was here earlier on? They're probably going to stay there for a bit because was it in Boston right now? It's Callahan is up. Who's the other? There's a couple of young defensemen from Providence that are up in Boston right now. So just thinking about the Mariners defense, it's a domino effect. And so bringing in a guy like Anderson, I think a really nice get. You don't give up, future considerations? So you're really not giving up much to bring this guy. And in Orlando, I know we're going to see them later this year, but holy mess down there. It's just thank God for the sunshine, because outside of that, that's going to be a rough go of it for the Solar Bears right now, looking at their record.
Yeah, that's been tough down there. I know they put a couple of wins together, and I just saw one time Maine Mariner John Gillies just won goaltender of the week. So he helped them win a couple of games down there. But yeah, I mean, that's a team that probably is going to be looking to make a lot of moves just to shake things up, regardless of how much they like a certain player. So I mean, it's just from what you're talking about there, it's the nature of the ECHL that you have to kind of always have options at all times, because, you start the season with all these affiliate players, and whether they get hurt or they get called up, you always find yourself grasping at straws, no matter who you are as a coach or what your situation is in the standings. And it's just an extra wrinkle for Rick to try to figure out. And so I think he'd probably tell you he's always listening and looking at opportunities to make the team better, even if the roster's full or if it's a little thin like it is now.
That's why the preseason is so important. You can see a lot of guys that we know aren't going to make the team, like was it Zach Jones that didn't make the team and has now been with us. So having a book on guys to that point, when players move up or you get injuries, you have a good roster to call on of players that have been here, or players that and have some information on. So a lot of value to that, no question. Moving on here, Mike, I know you probably can't say a whole lot, but of course we do have our handful of injuries here for the Mariners. Any updates you can provide on guys like DeVoe, Shovel Day Off in particular?
Well, those two guys are going to be long-term. I think Rick did say publicly on the coach's show that both of those guys had surgery. So I know they're around the team trying to recover and get back as quick as they can, but obviously you don't want to rush that and re-aggravate. So those two guys, it's going to be a while. I do think there's some positive movement with Gorman and Stewart. I know they've been skating. And so I think within a couple of weeks, you may see one or both of those guys. So good news there for sure. Primo's situation is still kind of week to week. And then, of course, Raymond and Massicott both went down, unfortunately, this past weekend. The Raymond thing didn't look good. He slammed into the boards, messed up his hand. He was put on 14-day IR yesterday. Massicott, I do not have an update on. Hopefully he avoided something major. But, if I do get something, I'll pass it along on the broadcast this coming weekend. But I would anticipate the Mariners would be without him for at least a little while. He's a big, tough guy, and I know it'd be tough to keep him off the ice, especially as one of the leaders. But I think you have to expect him not being around at least a few games, and then that obviously is where that D depth comes in. So, it does. It definitely feels like we can't get through a weekend here without adding to that injured list. But hopefully, some guys are starting to make progress to come back here, and if Boston and Providence get healthier, perhaps you see Element come back. Perreault looks like a guy we might not see again with how well he's doing up there, but we're happy for him, of course. So that's about all I got for you on that front.
Yeah, I think Element's one that we could see come back with the Bruins forward group starting to get a little healthier. I know Pasta, I think, has already been ruled out for tomorrow night. So it's like this was supposed to be a day-to-day coming out of Thanksgiving. And now the Bruins' best player. It's been a full week now. So I heard Andrew Raycroft on NHL radio just this afternoon saying the question on from Steve Coolius was, "Are you worried?" And Andrew was like, "Yeah, I'm a little worried now. Now that it's been a week." So yeah. Anyway, that domino effect. Maybe we see Element come back with some of those other forwards. Anyway, I know that is it Casey Middlestad is back up there as well. So we will see what happens. Looking at some numbers right now, Mike. First of all, just let's take a peek here. We're a plus 17 right now in the plus minus. The power play is cooking at an 18.8%. The penalty kill, like we talked about earlier, 86.4%. Is this the best penalty kill that you've seen in your time with the Mariners?
The penalty kill's always been pretty good for this team. Terrence Wallen's teams were always good penalty killers, which I think kind of this team's embodied who he was as a player. So, that's not necessarily something I've keyed in about this team. It's definitely the best start. Through 17 games. I know somebody was asking me in the Mixler chat, is this the best start in Mariners history? And I have to tell them, you got to quantify that with an amount of games, because best start could mean what? First 5 games, first 10 games, first 20 games. But through Thanksgiving, there definitely has not been a team that has gotten off to this type of start that the Mariners have had. So, special teams is a big part of it. The depth, which of course has been tested, as we've talked about a lot, has been a big part of it. Rick himself has been a big part of it. I think, just the experience he's brought has translated. And there's a lot of different factors to it. But yeah, you look at the plus 17, it's a team that has not given up a whole lot. I think the games that, they've been a little hot and cold offensively, and there'll be a few stretches. Obviously, that stretch where they only had 3 goals in 4 games on the road there. But even within those games, they were playing pretty well defensively. So they're going to score. They're going to score goals. Andreev is in a serious goal drought right now, so he's going to break out of it any minute. And Kalmakov, too, only has 1 goal in his last 10 games or so. So it's going to be, some of these guys haven't even popped yet. And then we talked about Hudson and Column getting hot of late. So it's hard to find a weakness with this team right now, besides the natural injury bug and call-up bug that every team is going to experience. And so it's been fun. It's been fun to be a part of.
Talking about the record, that's something I was curious about. How good of a start has this been? I look back, through October, November, since the Mariners have been here. You go back to 18-19, and I'm not counting. I'm just counting losses, overtime losses. I didn't break it down, but 9-8 in 18-19, 10-8 in 19-20. In the 21 year, you were 6-8. 2022, 6-10. 23, you were 5-8. Of course, last year 6-11. This year 10-4-3.
So now this is nothing even above 500 there.
No. I think the closest you were back in 18-19, 9-10 or 9-8. So it maybe maybe 1, but this is easily the best start in franchise history. Wonderful to see that.
It banks you. It gives you a little bit of margin for error, right? That all those other years we got to the dog days, and man, it would have been better. It would have been nice to get off to a better start and be able to withstand 4 or 5 losses in a row, and just never had that luxury. Obviously, the 22-23 year when they won 40-some games, they were able to get really, really hot in the middle of the season and pretty much cruise to a playoff spot that year. But that was the exception. Everything else, 18-19, the very first year, I remember going on a nice little winning streak in February and March, and then dropped like 4 in a row. And, that was it because of that slow start. They couldn't withstand it. And then, 2 years ago, snuck in on obviously the last day. So really nice to have a little bit of a cushion here to where if you do stumble, you're going to be okay. But the North is showing once again, it's competitive, man. There's, Tuara Vieira has gotten hot now, and, there's really nobody that's a pushover here. Worcester is back to 500 after how bad they started. So can't take anything for granted, but really nice to have 10 wins through 17 games.
Yeah, as you said, Wheeling right now in first place, 14-3-1 with 29 points. The Mariners at 23 points. Yeah, Twa turning it on, 10-5-2. And how about Worcester? 8-1-1 with 18 points. I did not have that on my bingo card after seeing them a couple weeks ago. So I guess good on them, right?
especially if Tikkanen got called up too to Bridgeport, which
Right.
he was stealing them games. But yeah, I mean, I knew that they weren't going to be like I said. No team is ever as bad as it looks or as good as it looks at a given time, and I think Worcester finally proved that. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be fun here. Again, there's some of these teams the Mariners have barely played, haven't seen Paul Revere at all, only seen Adirondack twice, haven't seen Greensboro at all, barely seen Reading. So it's gonna be fun.
Going to be a lot of fun. And of course, the road ahead here, we do have 10 games coming up in December. The Adirondack is up next. Taking a quick look at them, some of their top scores here from a forward perspective. It's McManus with 15 points, 7 goals, and 8 assists. Daniel, how do you, Dylan, is it Went or Wentz?
Yeah, Went.
Went. Okay, 4, 9, and 13 for him. And then you go to their defensive group. Let's see, it's a Hansel with 1 goal, 7 assists for 8 points. And from a goaltending perspective, they got Brodeur with 4 wins, a 2.43 and a 9.11 save percentage. Brennan, another goaltender there, 2 wins for him, 2.98 and 8.85 save percentage. I know the last time we played Adirondack, there was kind of a mixed bag of results, and Coach Kowalsky said, hey, I didn't really have much of a book on these guys. What should we expect of these couple of games coming up?
Yeah, it was 2 shootouts, if you remember. So that's an interesting wrinkle. The teams are very evenly matched. That was the Halloween weekend, and the road team won both games. But very low-scoring, tight-checking games. It was 2-1 and 3-2. And I'm very interested, just like with Norfolk, now that you got a few games, now that you're going to get a few more games head-to-head, what do you learn about how to attack a team in a certain way? But they were very structured, good defensively. Brennan and Brodeur are 2 solid goalies that have been around for a while now. Obviously, we know Brodeur pretty well from his time here. And so I'm excited this weekend to see Adirondack. Their roster's fairly different looking than it was then. They made a lot of moves, and they've had kind of an up and down year. I know they just lost 2 of 3 to Worcester. So it'll be interesting to see what we get this weekend. Hopefully we'll see some more goals. And but yeah, I mean, boy, we've gone full seasons without seeing a single shootout, and the fact that we played back-to-back shootouts against them was weird. It was kind of a strange weekend, but you think back on it, and it was good hockey. And it always is between those two teams. I think I was talking to, I think it was actually my dad, and he said, Adirondack feels like more of a rival for you guys than Worcester does, even though it's the rivalry cup with Worcester. And the Mariners actually have had a really good win percentage against both teams, but I think he makes a good point in that there's always close, tight overtime games that the Mariners and Thunder seem to play, and obviously that was bared out that Halloween weekend. So we'll see. Hopefully, though, on Saturday the teddy bear toss doesn't take too long. You don't want to have a 0-0 game going late into it when you have the teddy bear toss. So hopefully we'll get one nice and early on Saturday.
Man, that's always the worry about that game. It's like one of the most fun games of the year, but man, you get into the third period, it's 0-0. It's like, oh man, what are we going to do with all these teddy bears? Come on.
Yeah. Luckily, it's happened early the last few years.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't think it's ever taken longer than early in the second. And I think the very first one was about midway through the second period, but there's a couple that have gotten early in the second, but the last 2 or 3 have all happened in the first. So hopefully we'll get that again.
I'm trying to remember, was it last year, 2 years ago in Adirondack? Didn't Coach Wallen have an issue with someone like throwing things into the bench or throwing out the players?
In Glens Falls, the fans that sit behind the visiting bench are always a rowdy bunch, and there was some targeting going on during the teddy bear toss toward our bench. And you know what, though? It fueled the Mariners. They scored 10 seconds out of the puck drop after all the Bears were cleaned up. So those fans should just know that it had the opposite effect of what they intended, and they got thrown out of the game. So it was a double whammy. There
you go. And hey, Kowalsky is a former New Jersey guy, so I think he'll probably know how to handle those rowdy Glen Falls folks next game up there. But yeah, the Thunder sitting, as you said, 7-6-2-1, 17 points, sitting 7th right now in front of Norfolk, tied with Greensboro there in points. So yeah, I mean, it's still early, but you are 6 points up on them. And let's see, they for the last 2, 4-4-2 over their last 10. Maine, of course, 6-3-1 over their last 10. So should be a spirited affair. You mentioned Trois Rivières. We do have them 5 times on the schedule this month, and of course 2 with Worcester to round out the month. 5 home games, 5 away games. I know we've got the Teddy Bear Toss game coming up. We also have a very exciting night with the Portland Pirates Throwback Night. Just saw that video yesterday, guys. If you haven't seen that uniform or the sweater release, go check that out on YouTube. It's a very it definitely gets you riled up, gets your blood moving a little bit watching that video. What can you share about these promo nights?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, that's 2 of the next 3 games, and they're going to be probably 2 of the biggest of the season, if not in our history. I mean, the teddy bear toss, as you mentioned, always an exciting. Just the anticipation of everyone bringing their teddy bears and getting ready to toss those. But then we integrated those with specialty jerseys. If you haven't seen those yet, it's like a powder blue with kind of bears raining down on the front of the jersey. Really, really cool. Great idea by our marketing department there. And there's a winter beanie giveaway as well to the first 1,000 fans. So, again, we had a long gap between the 2 home games ago and the last home game, and now another pretty long gap between the 23rd and December 6th here. So I wouldn't expect, if you wait too long to get your tickets, you may have trouble getting them. So you're going to want to get those as soon as you can over at marinersofmaine.com. And then, yeah, the 13th, the first of the 2 Pirates nights. And, it's something that the fans have been asking for years now. And I think when we first came in, we wanted to make sure we focused on forging our own identity. The Pirates leaving was still pretty fresh in everyone's mind and a fresh scar, frankly. And but it's definitely time to honor their legacy. And we've got the jerseys. We worked really hard. Again, our marketing team has worked really hard on trying to match the experience of a Pirates game. So I know there's going to be a lot of extra stuff pregame as far as bells and whistles. So you're going to want to check that out. We're working on getting some Pirates alumni out here for that game. And then there's a Pirates bobblehead giveaway that night as well. So the Mariners will wear those sweaters on the 13th and then January 17th. And so the auction is going to open this week, but it will not conclude until that second game on January 17th. So it'll be a long open auction. But there's also some additional merchandise available now, great holiday gifts. The other 2 are the white and the red Pirates jerseys available at marinersofmaine.com/shop. And then there'll be a few other merchandise items Pirates related. So, we've heard the fans. We know that they wanted it back, and I'm just so excited to see. I know there's no force quite as strong as nostalgia, and I think we're seeing that.
And hockey fans love their nostalgia. That is for sure. Anybody looking to buy me a Christmas present this year, a little Portland Pirates sweater under the Christmas tree would not be a bad thing for me at all. Well, Mike, thank you so much for this time. Before we let you go, I do want to ask you about your experience. As we all know, you had the opportunity to go down to Providence and call, I believe this was your first AHL game. Can you share what that experience was like for you?
Yeah, it was amazing. And just a big thanks to everyone at Providence, Brett Chavez, their broadcaster, Jordan Kahn, their media specialist, just everybody that gave me the opportunity. And it's funny, I was just mapping out my November now that it's December 1st. I had a crazy month, maybe the craziest month of my life professionally as far as lack of days off. I think between November 7th and November 30th, yesterday, I really only had 1 true day off, which was that random Saturday we had between games. I think it was the 22nd. And so, yeah, I mean, we had just come off that 3-3 with Worcester. I found out Friday night that there was a chance, this would have been Friday the 7th, that there was a chance they needed me. But even then, I couldn't commit to it because we had that wheeling trip, and I wasn't sure when exactly we'd be leaving. At the time, there was government shutdown was still going on, so could we fly? Would we have to bus? By the way, I was coordinating all of that too for the team, so that was on. I was worried about that, but obviously, I really wanted to do it, and luckily, things cleared up with the flight, and we were able to fly. And so I had Wednesday open, so I drove down there. The 3 hours didn't have as much time to prep as I would have liked, but I felt as that game went on, I got stronger, got the rosters down in my head a little bit because really it was learning 2 brand new rosters. Cool to call Loki Johansson's AHL debut after calling his ECHL debut a few weeks ago. And of course, Michael DiPietro was here. So we get to see him start that game. And then it was just a great game. They won 3-2 in overtime, back and forth game. Hartford tied it late with the goalie pulled. So I couldn't have asked for a better situation. And first class staff down there, like I said, and hopefully I'll get a chance to do it again someday. But it was definitely For me, it felt like a long time coming and a reward for all the work I feel like I've put in here. And it's been great to really develop this relationship with Providence, especially since Dexter took over the team. Things have gotten so much tighter with them, and it felt like that was kind of a big part of it. So again, just so thankful for the opportunity, and really happy that it's a part of my crazy November.
Crazy indeed, and certainly not your last AHL game. I have no doubt about that. Mike, thanks again for doing this. I know you talk about no days off. This is a day off for you, and you're on here on the podcast, so I do appreciate that from you today.
Yeah, well, it's what I love to do. And Ben, shout out to you. You've been a great addition to our broadcast, and I'm looking forward to doing more games with you.
It's been a lot of fun. Man, I'm still a little stunned that you guys are giving me that opportunity, and I can't hold a candle to what you pro broadcasters do. I'm just thankful that I haven't taken you off the rails quite yet. There's still plenty of time for that, though. Well, listen, guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. If you have already subscribed to my channel, thank you so much. If you're new to the channel, thank you for checking this out. Hit that subscribe button down below. I do want to just say that next week, on the 8th, I think the episode will either go out on the 8th or the 9th. I am lucky enough to have Nesson's Adam Pellerin coming on the show. So we will have a full-on Boston Bruins episode. Adam's a phenomenal guy, great on camera, better off camera, just a wonderful, wonderful person. Cannot wait to talk to him. So everybody, enjoy this week. Enjoy this snow tonight and tomorrow. And until next time, everybody, be kind, show love, and God bless.